Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing, man? Antonelli here. Okay, so I've received a lot of emails over the weekend about minor league housing. There's been a couple of articles, and we're going to go over this, but minor league housing is a huge part of playing in the minor leagues, and I don't think a lot of people understand exactly how it works. And I have made other videos on it, but I really want to go in depth, in detail, about how minor league housing works. How do you get housing? How much does it cost? What are you expected to do? What does your club do for you? And then we're going to go over pricing and basically everything that I had to deal with as a player in the minor leagues when it came to securing housing. So let's start off here. This is one of the articles that a lot of people were emailing me. It says the Orioles have provided housing for their minor leaguers in AA and down through this month. The organization is considering the use of host families starting in June. And then there was a couple of comments here. All teams, please do this. Take care of your future. We have, you'd think the billion-dollar organization would take care of their players instead of trying to rely on their fans to try to house those employees. And just to be clear also, the Orioles are not the first team to do this, I don't believe. I think the Astros were actually the first team that did this, and they did it for all their teams. This is according to the Associated Press. I found this article. It said, the Houston Astros are providing furnished apartments to minor league players at all levels for the 2021 season, believed to be the first big league club to do so. And I think there may be a few others that have done it as well. So there's a lot to cover here, okay? But I want to go over it step by step. So let's start off with this. I think this is probably one of the toughest parts about the minor leagues is paying for your housing. And you have to remember, most minor league players are going to be getting paid less than $10,000 a year. That is their salary for the entire year. So keep that in mind. Again, not everyone realizes that. And you're asked, I would say most places, again, we're going to get into the details of what I had to do, but most places that you play in the minor leagues, you're going to have to find your own housing, and you are going to have to pay for that housing out of that, let's say, $8,000 to $10,000 a year. And there were years, especially in the lower minors, when you're really getting paid nothing, that most of my paycheck went towards my housing. And this is why it's really common, especially again at the lower levels of the minor leagues, but you can see this even up at the higher levels of the minor leagues, where you'll see players piling into apartment complexes. Again, I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a second, but when I got called up to low A ball, so low single A ball, it felt like we had like 8 guys in the same apartment. We had like 4 guys sleeping in 2 bunk beds in one of the bedrooms. We had guys sleeping on the sofa, on pull-out, on blow-up mattresses in the living room. So it gets pretty crazy in the minor leagues. And I've even seen players at all different levels that will sleep in the clubhouse. So I've seen certain players that will just say, you know what? I'm not going to try to go find an apartment. It's too expensive. I'm just going to sleep on the sofa and turn the clubhouse into my own apartment. Again, I haven't seen this a lot, but I've definitely seen some players do this. And players are trying to do whatever they can, because not only do you have to pay for housing, you have to live, you have to pay for food. Your job is to perform at the highest level, right? You're trying to make it to Major League Baseball, where the best players in the world are playing. And so you can't try to eat McDonald's 3 times a day, right? And spend $10 a day on food. Some players do that, but you're trying to at least have enough money where you can get some quality food, and then again, be able to do something. There's going to be not a whole lot of hours of free time, but there's going to be some hours of free time where you need money to be able to go and enjoy yourself a little bit. Okay, so now let's go through every level of the minor leagues, because at every level, it was a little bit different for me, okay? And I played at basically every single level of the minor league. So let's cover what's going to happen in your home city. All right, so for instance, when I got drafted in short season A ball 2006, I was drafted by the Padres. I was sent to short season. It was in Eugene, Oregon. At that level, the Padres, if you're with the Padres now maybe you get drafted by the Giants and they do something a little bit differently. Maybe you're drafted by the Rangers and they do something a little differently, but I'm going to tell you what the Padres did, okay? So when I was drafted, our whole team was put up into a hotel right basically in the middle of Eugene, Oregon, all right? And we would buy bikes. It's interesting. Every player would buy a bike, and you'd bike back and forth to the stadium. Most players did that, okay? So I took a bike every day to and from the stadium. So they put you all up in a hotel. And you were given a roommate. I've told this story before, going into the minor leagues, getting drafted. I had this vision of like staying in my own hotel room. I open the door, I walk in, and I've got a guy sitting on the bed. It ended up being David Freese. Ended up going on having a great career with the Cardinals and a couple other teams. But he's sitting there, and I literally opened the door. I'm expecting to be by myself, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There's someone sitting on the bed here. There's two beds. Okay, I've got a roommate. And so in Eugene, when you're home, when you're playing in Eugene, you've got a roommate, you're in a little tiny hotel room, just a normal hotel room, but you also have to pay for that hotel room. And I would say, I think I probably paid like, it was probably like $10 to $15 a day, I think is what the price was. And my paycheck that year was very, very low. I believe I made $1,100 a month for the 5-month season. So you're looking at, what's that, less than $6,000 a year. So they try to help you out, the team tries to help you, but you do still have to pay something. So take that $10 to $15 a day, you're probably home for half the month. So what's that, 15 days? So you're looking at probably, I don't know, I'm not really good at math, but you're looking at probably something like $250 a month. Is that about right? For living expenses. And that was by far the cheapest spot that I was able to stay during my career. Now, I got called up to low A, so single A, low A, single A, right? Usually, I don't even know how they do it now, but when I played, there was a low A and there was a high A. So low A was in Fort Wayne, Indiana. When I went to Fort Wayne, Indiana, I got an apartment. I just jumped in with a bunch of other players because I got called up like towards the end of the season. And this is where I said we had like 4 guys sleeping in one bedroom. We had a guy sleeping out on the sofa. I was sleeping on like a pull-out, like a blow-up mattress. It's just like cram as many guys into this place as you can, because the more players you have staying in there, well, the less your monthly rent is, right? So you got 10 guys, well, I'm only 1/10 of that, and so I can save a lot of money. And that's basically what it was like. I was only there for a few weeks because it was the end of the season, but that's how we did it in low A ball. Just jam everybody into an apartment. Now, the next season, I started in high A ball, so still single A. I was out in Lake Elsinore, California. Now, this is where host families came in. And it isn't anything special about high A ball. This could happen at any level. But for the Padres, again, it happened to be high A ball, Lake Elsinore, California. You had host families. So all a host family is the family that volunteers to take in a player. Very nice of them. And I've been very lucky in my life. I had a great host family there, and I've had a host family in the Cape Cod League. We've talked about that before. So my host family, essentially, I become like their son for the summer. And so I stay in their house. Depends on your host family. Some host families are amazing, like mine. My host family would basically make me feel like a member of their family. And so I'd eat family dinners with them, and I could go through the fridge and do whatever I want, eat whatever I want. So it was great. Not everybody is exactly like that. I've heard some horror stories with host families. So as a player, the one great thing about being with a host family is that you get to save money on your apartment. You don't need to pay for an apartment, right? So this really, really helps out. And this is a huge part. Again, I don't think there's a ton of places that do this. It's not like you see this a lot. Most of the time, it's stay in apartments, right? But when you're able to have this type of host family atmosphere where you have enough families that are willing to give up their homes, essentially, for the entire summer, that really, really helps out players being able to save some money on apartments. So that's how we did it in high A. Now, when I went to double A, it was back to apartments. So I was in San Antonio, Texas. Chad Huffman and I, we just split the cost of an apartment. The apartments were actually pretty expensive out there. I think I ended up paying, I believe I paid around $600-700 a month, I think, just for me. And then, you know, we put it together, and I think the rent was like, I think it was like $1,300 a month or something like that. So again, you're getting paid at that point. In double A, I'm probably getting paid, I would say that year I made about $1,800 a month for the 5 months. So you're still under $10,000. I'm paying $600-700 almost a month just in living expenses, right? So that's how double A worked. And then in triple A, same type of thing. Whey LeBlanc and I were up in Portland, Oregon. We split a apartment. And I would say we're basically the same thing. I got paid right around like $2,000 a month in triple A for 5 months. That's $10,000. And then we split an apartment. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that at any point during the year, you can get released. You can get traded. You can get sent up. You can get sent down. And so one thing about staying in apartments is you have to make sure that you can find an apartment, and usually the team will tell you, hey, here are the apartments that players usually stay in. But you've got to go sign a lease, and you have to make sure you go someplace where you can get a short-term lease. You don't want to get a long lease, because what if you get traded? What if you get released? What if you get sent up or sent down? Now you've got to go to a new city and find a new apartment, and you do not want to be paying for an apartment in your new city and in your old city at the same time, because that would be bad business and you would go broke, right? So you have to make sure that you can get out of leases quickly. So usually they're like month-to-month leases, and that's why teams will say, hey, check out this apartment complex or this one, because they're pretty good with the terms of their lease. So it's important to remember to do that. But that is one interesting part of going through this, is that you might have to clean out your apartment and leave like that. They call you up and say, hey, you've been traded here. Hey, you've been sent up. You've been sent down. Whatever. You've been released. You've got to pack up, go talk to the people at the front desk, tell them you're leaving, try to get out of your lease, or you might have to just pay through the rest of the month, and then you got to go get ready to get into a new apartment in your new city. Luckily for me, I'd always ask Laura, like when I was getting up or down or released or whatever, I'd say, hey, can you check out the new city that I'm going to? And can you try to find me an apartment? Because I'm going to be there in like a few hours. I'm jumping on a plane now. And then she was usually pretty good at hooking me up. And here's the last tweet I want to talk about. This is Colin McHugh, and he said, this was on Twitter. He said, finding temporary housing on your own in multiple cities every year and then having to pay for them all on a less than minimum wage salary was one of the biggest challenges I ever faced in baseball. Bravo to the O's and Astros for taking care of their people. And this was tweeted out, what, about a week or so ago. So that's how it works. Again, I'd say usually it's apartments. Sometimes you have host families. I have heard that host families over the last year or so, because of COVID, obviously, has basically become non-existent. So most players are forced to just jump into either hotels or apartments. So nice to see some of these teams taking care of some of their players. I know there's always people in the comments that will say, like, my job doesn't pay for my housing or whatever. I do think this is a little bit different. One, Colin does say they get paid less than minimum wage, which if you're getting paid $7,500 for the season, I don't know what that comes out to per hour, but it's not very much, maybe like $2 per hour. So that's one thing. The second thing is you're required to travel around the country. It's not like you can choose, hey, I want to play for the Red Sox because I live in Boston, I'm going to play. No, you don't get to choose. You get drafted by the Mariners, you're going out to the West Coast or to wherever. You have to go live there. And then again, they can send you up or send you down and make you move where you're working at all the time. So it's a little different dynamic. I'm sure someone will still say, well, still pay for your own stuff. That's fine. That's all we got though. Just wanted to give you guys some details on how it works. Good on these teams. Hopefully more teams continue to help out their players in the minor league. So we'll talk to you later. If you've enjoyed this video and want to learn more about building the elite swing, check out our new course. We have over 2 hours of content, almost 30 hitting drills. We break down the exact mechanics that you're going to want to implement into your swing. I've put the link in the description if you want to go check it out.